Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles and cousins, of course, and nanas and papas, or if you prefer, grandmothers and grandfathers, and baseball fans everywhere. Hello and welcome to this edition of the Valley Baseball League podcast. My name is Graham Knight, and on behalf of the Valley Baseball League and the teams in this league, it is my pleasure to welcome you here tonight to a place we call the Analytic Zone. Yeah. I know that it should read something along the lines of this. It's in the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fear and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of the imagination. It is the area which we call the Twilight Zone. You know, I've taken a few liberties. Personally, I think it sounds a lot better like this. It's in the middle ground between home plate and home plate, between the math of 6 plus 4 plus 3 equals 2, and the superstition that has players everywhere not changing their underwear for the entire season. And it lies between the windup and the summit of his accomplishments. This is the dimension of the analytic, a place we call the Analytic Zone. Hey, listen, I'm joined today by a couple of things. Number one, I'm joined by my Valley Baseball League hat. I'm not sure if I know you can see the logo on the front, but what you can't see on the back is a gateway to the majors. And today we're going to break into a conversation about the all-decade team. We started it a day ago, and now we're going to take it up a notch. And to do that, here's Joe Harmon and our buddy, John Leonard. John, Joe, please say hi to everybody.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, I'm not going to chastise you for not wearing any Valley Baseball League signage. I'll just put a logo.
I don't have any.
All right, we're going to fix that.
Stuff.
Hey, where's your Phillies shirt, John? What are you wearing today?
This is my Rick and Morty shirt.
All right.
Yeah.
By the way, we're one of the things we're trying to do on this podcast is bring in. Oh, there it is. John's got his hat. Joe, I'm going to hook you up. I should have done that long before.
Is Adult Swim sponsoring the podcast now, there, John?
That'd be awesome, wouldn't it?
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. By the way, the shirt of the day is 6 plus 4 plus 3 equals 2. We're going to be talking to a woman who wrote a very thoughtful post on Facebook about really missing baseball. She was walking by Wrigley Field and saw that shirt in the window, and she loves. I don't think I said that right. She loves. It's bigger than that actually. Keeping score of baseball games. Anyway. We're not doing that today. We're talking about the all-decade team. It's a conversation we started. All for people who might have missed the first one, catch them up on where we are.
Well, yeah, so John gave us the full roster from the first All-Star team, the first team All-Stars of the all-decade team. A lot of great names on there, and we briefly touched on who they were and where they came from and how John went through the process of making his selections. So now we're going to pick it up. We're going to get a little more into it and start talking about the different areas. What's the word I'm looking for? Different positions. And we're going to start with the starters. And so, John, tell us about some of the top starters on the roster and a little bit more about them and what their stories are.
Well, I picked 5 starting pitchers for each, the first team and the second team. And it's kind of interesting that starters in the Valley League are not necessarily the best prospects. They can be, but they're often not. Sometimes the pitcher can come in with just mediocre stuff, and because they control, their control is better, and they can change speeds better, they come up with amazing numbers, but then are not considered to go on to pro ball, which is always kind of interesting, like a guy like Jamie Moyer wouldn't be drafted these days, right? Because he just doesn't throw hard enough. But that's one of the fun things about this team is with the first 5, 2 of them have not gone on to pro ball. And in fact, the guy with maybe the best numbers of all was Ricky Winters, who pitched in Woodstock in 2013. He was out of Delta State. And Ricky did not go on to pro ball. But then the other guy who hasn't is Hayden McCutcheon from Charlottesville in 2015. But then 3 of the guys did go on to pro ball. and that's Stephen Ridings from Charlestown, 2015. He actually pitched at Division III Messiah, which was kind of fun. Anytime we have a Division III guy really putting up good numbers, that's always enjoyable. Zach Peak from Strasburg in 2017. He was drafted just last year by the Angels, but then was traded to the Orioles. And then Jordan DiLorenzo from Front Royal in 2013. He was out of West Florida. He was drafted in 2014, made it to A-ball before he had to go on to something new. So those are the first 5.
Yeah. So what made these guys stand out to you?
Well, it was purely numbers for these guys. So I looked at, and
let's get started at the top. Who was the top rated one there on your list of the 5 starters for the first team?
Ricky Winters.
Can you give us his stat line from that year?
Yeah, he went 5-0 with a 0.44 ERA.
I'm sorry, 0.44.
0.44. That means over 9 innings, he gives up less than 1 earned run in those 9 innings. His WHIP was 0.707, which means
0.7.
Walks and hits per innings pitched, which means he gave up less than 1 base runner per inning. And his walks per 9 was 1.5, which was very low. And then his strikeouts per 9 was 9.4.
9.4.
He struck out more than a batter per inning as well. So he kind of had a convergence of all of the stats.
Now, and this guy, he did not go to pro ball? Is that what you just told us?
He did not go on to pro ball, no.
So is that a statement that the hitting that year was terrible in the league, or was he just that good? Did he come? What do you know about the inside story on that?
I wouldn't say. Let's see, 2013. It was the year after the baseball was crazy, but no, he just was outstanding all year.
I'll say.
And again, sometimes these pitchers really. Maybe he had more experience. I'm looking here.
And what team did he play for again in that year?
He was at Delta State. Oh, he played for Woodstock.
Okay, and he's from Delta State, which doesn't roll off the top of my head here as to where Delta State is, and
so it's in the Gulf South Conference. In the NCAA.
We need to get this guy on the phone because find out what was it the water in Woodstock that lit his arm up, and that it wasn't something he did he not have that kind of success elsewhere in his career? He didn't do that in high school and didn't get scouted by Division I or Division II, or he didn't do that in college on his college team and didn't get scouted by the pros. Did he go to a tryout and then did he choke or what? What was it about 2013 in Woodstock? Yeah, or the bed was comfortable and he was able to sleep better than he has his whole life, and that was it. I want to get this guy on the phone because those are incredible numbers. I mean, you see those numbers, 0 point anything in ERA and WHIP, and that guy needs to be drafted. Right. We were. If you listen to our interview with Sam Perlazzo, he made a point that when he played in the Valley League. Now, again, that was 50 years ago, but unlike when you played in college, where each college team might have 1 or 2 really good pitchers. And if you catch that team on the day after their really good pitcher threw, you had a pretty mediocre to not great pitcher on the mound against you. But in the Valley League, every night you had a really good pitcher on the mound, and you were trying to hit against. So, and if you could put up good numbers in the Valley League, as Sam Perlazzo, a former major league manager, pointed out, you could play ball. So this guy puts up absolutely incredible numbers in the Valley League and doesn't get drafted. What's going on? It's interesting.
Well, and it's something that I've spoken to scouts about in the past. It's much more of a future potential than it is a current performance thing, and that doesn't make sense to a lot of fans. When Brandon Quaranta was here, and he's on the first team at Utility on the All-Decade team. I mean, pitchers just couldn't get him out. He was hitting home runs, every other game. Was just phenomenal in his 2 years and didn't get drafted. and you want to say, well, why didn't he get a chance? And the scouts are saying, well, okay, that's what Brandon is right now. But what's he going to give us 5 years down the road? And they tend to look at that. So it could be that a pitcher who has better raw stuff is going to get drafted instead of perhaps the pitcher who performs better now but doesn't have as fast a fastball, the higher spin rate, and so on. Yeah.
So the scouts are looking at things, other things other than just the stat lines, that as an indicator of, like you said, raw talent that can be honed in and molded into a major league star. But was it because they felt these guys that put up these great stats that they're not teachable, that they don't have the basic mechanics that they fit into their system? I'm with you. I still don't get it.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem fair. Sometimes it comes down to who you know, but yeah, those scouts are going to be looking for future, what kind of major league player they might be.
Huh?
Hey guys.
Yeah.
Let me jump in real quick. I realize this is a decade. This is the decade before this decade's team, but there was a guy named Carlos Guevara. We had the fortunate opportunity to talk to Mark Pfeiffer from Covington, and Mark wrote a fantastic story. I'm going to put a link to it in the YouTube comments here about Carlos. So Carlos comes to the Valley, plays in Covington, discovers a devastating screwball while he's here. He's like the two, he wouldn't have made it to the majors without that experience. Part of me is kind of wondering, Carlos ends up getting drafted. He was a Division II story. He goes on to play and plays at the old Yankee Stadium, and he made it. He's since out of the league. Anyway, I'm just kind of curious that a guy named Carlos Guerrero gets discovered. I'm wondering if it's just a matter of, maybe this guy wasn't quite on the radar being a Division III school. Maybe they just didn't give him the time of day. I don't know. Anyway, I just wanted to tie it into, a guy like a Carlos Guerrero who comes here, discovers and he said, Carlos says, look, I was pitching high 80s, low 90s. He's like, I knew I was a dime a dozen. So, here's a guy that's throwing some decent pitches, but it's nothing outstanding. And,
we love that story about the guy that overcomes adversity and goes to the indie leagues and then gets discovered and makes it. For every one of those guys, every one of the Carlos Guevara that ends up fulfilling that dream. I mean, there are hundreds of guys that would trade places in a second and just never get a chance.
Yeah. Well, there's an interesting story just to tie it up to some local guys that have come out of the league. One of the guys worth watching right now, and sorry to take it away from pitchers for a second, but it's a guy named Cody Wilson. Cody was with the Winchester Royals back in 2017. He was drafted in 18, played in 2019, and then went on to kind of play with the Hagerstown. There's a nice write-up in Mass, and I'll put the link about Cody in this podcast as well. Cody, he's got all the right stuff, but it looks like he's a little late at the plate. And the write-up is they've been working with him on it. Just the way he attacks the ball. He starts off on time, going for the hit, but then the way he uses his body slows him down by the time he gets to the pitch. And it's just kind of interesting to see somebody like, Cody come out of the Valley League and then go on and being nurtured into being really a potential future major league player. And a guy that you're talking about who's got this great stat line, we're going to have to dig into it, Joe. I like your idea. We're going to have to get this guy on the phone and find out, hey, what's going on?
And maybe we get the scout. We find a scout who likes us, so we can talk to as well, who will provide us some inside ball on what goes through their minds around when we see somebody jump off the page, as this player does, but doesn't get drafted. What's going on in the scout's head and in the meeting room?
Cody Wilson really showed a dynamic blend of speed and power too when he was playing for Winchester.
Yeah.
It's not surprising that he got a chance. And like you said, he's striking out a little bit too much in pro ball, but that's why he got the chance, right? The scouts could look at him and they could dream. They could say, I think this guy could be a major league center fielder, kind of like Jackson Tate, who played for Waynesboro in 2019. Just these raw tools that jump off the page.
Mm-hmm.
That was Cody for sure.
Yeah. All right, John, let's go back. Yeah.
One last thing about all this.
Yeah.
The other thing we have to keep in mind is that we're not dealing with full seasons here.
Right.
So, Ricky Winters threw 40 innings that summer, and that's a pretty small sample size. And I'm not saying that he couldn't have done it over 100 innings or 150 innings. But so sometimes our statistics can be a little skewed in different ways because it's such a small sample.
All right, baseball fans, I really hate to interrupt this conversation, but there are 3 important pieces of business I have to get to. Have to. First, please subscribe, like, and share us. Really super important to get the word out about the Valley Baseball League. We're in the top 10 of all summer collegiate wood bat leagues. We're in the National Alliance of Collegiate Summer Wood Bat Leagues. It's an alliance of 12 leagues, including the Cape Cod League. We're one of only a few leagues sponsored by Major League Baseball. We want to let people know what's happening in the Valley, what's good about this organization, and why they want to be involved. So help us do that. Also, if you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, please share them. We'd love to hear from you. vbleague@isomermedia.com. That's vbleague@isomermedia.com. And I would be absolutely remiss if I did not pay tribute to our great sponsor, Grace Burrows. Two last years, I'm not sure if that's a sentence, but it sounds kind of cool. The 2 last years of Valley Baseball League live streams would not have happened if it were not for the contributions and support of Grace Burrows. Here's her latest book. If you haven't gotten it, support her by reaching out and getting it. It's a great read. She's a great writer. I'm happy to say I was one of her first readers. Anyway, take a look. All right, now it's time to get back to a place we call the analytics zone.
John, going back to pitching and the all-decade team here, and you just mentioned that with a 42-game schedule, it's a small sample size.
Sure.
The league plays differently than the pro game or even the college game because of the shortened schedule, because of roster variations throughout the year. So when we talk about the bullpen, relief pitching, versus starting pitching, a lot of the teams don't necessarily have a delineation between these guys are the starters and these guys are the relievers. Is that right?
Sometimes that's true. It can often be the college coach that decides what they want to have done with a specific arm. I know sometimes a player will come to the Valley and his college coach will say, I really want him to be in the starting rotation next year, so start working on it in the summer. So you can get guys that are used to pitching out of the bullpen in college suddenly in the starting rotation, and you can get some interesting things happen with that. It just all depends on future plans and stuff as well. Again, how hard a guy throws and things like that. Yeah.
So who else is on the first team here for the pitchers after the first 5 starters? on
Yeah,
your
the
roster?
relievers are Adam Zipko, who pitched in Newmarket in 2013. He was out of
All right.
Millersville.
Is he the
Did not,
top-rated reliever you got?
yeah, he didn't give up an earned run
Wow.
all season.
How many innings?
22 total innings
22 total innings without an earned run.
without an earned, and he struck out 13.9 per 9 innings.
Wow. What's his total
So
strikeouts?
I don't have the total strikeouts,
Okay.
but we could do that.
We don't have a
Do the
calculator.
formula backwards, right?
But 14 strikeouts basically per 9 innings. So he would go out there and put down 14 guys if he pitched the whole game. That's
Right.
insane. I mean, that's like Greg Maddux.
It was excellent.
Yeah.
And he saved 17 games that summer.
Oh
I
my
think
gosh! Out of 22, he pitched 22 innings and saved 17 games.
Most saves, I think, since 2004 in the league,
Wow.
if I'm remembering that correctly.
And so he was a 2012 out of Newmarket. Did I catch you right there?
2013 out of Newmarket.
Wow.
The second guy is Shea Maltese, who pitched in Haymarket in 2012. It's always fun to see the old name of Haymarket pop up.
Yeah.
The third one was Anthony Zimmerman. He threw in 2018 for Percival. And he was a free agent sign of the Cincinnati Reds. So he did not get drafted, but he showed enough ability that they gave him a shot. He's still currently in the minor leagues.
Okay. Do you know what organization? Is he with the Reds still?
He's still with the Reds. Yeah.
Excellent.
Reese Carolus, Aldi 2014. He pitched in Pro Ball as well. And then the last guy is a man named Zach Blatt, who threw in Luray all the way back in 2010.
Wow.
He was at Auburn, but he did not get to pitch in Pro Ball.
What was his line?
Blatt went 2-1 with an 0.69 ERA.
Wow.
0.81 WHIP, 1.4 walks per 9, and 11.1 Ks per 9.
Wow. How many innings?
In 26 total innings, and that's in a tough park too. Luray was a pretty small home park. It was tough to have a low ERA, but those old Luray teams were pretty stacked on the pitching side. They had some amazing talent on those teams.
Well, and let's just give a shout out to the old Luray teams. Danny Murphy came out of Luray for Luray. Danny Murphy came out of the Luray team.
He did.
Yeah, I'm sure there were others, but
Yonder Alonso in 2006 as well.
Yeah, very nice. Well, we were just talking to Ryan Thecto, and Ryan was talking about being in Haymarket, the Haymarket Senators that eventually became the Aldi Senators. It's kind of wild to watch the teams morph from one place to another. Gentlemen, I tell you what, let's do this because there's clearly more to talk about than we're going to be able to fit into this one episode.
We haven't even picked up a bat yet on this.
Yeah, well, so let's do this. Why don't? How do you want to wrap up the pitching one, and then we'll come back in another episode and talk about the bats?
Yeah. All right. So, John, looking at the stats as you did for the pitchers up and down the decade, we talked about some of the really amazing stat lines there, but who won some championships in the VBL off that list? Who were on winning teams, and what do we see from that perspective of these guys? It wasn't just about the stat line; it was about winning the league.
Okay, I'm not ready for that one.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. Let me start over then. I'll ask you another one.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here comes Joe's pitch up, or change up. It's 2-2 count. Let's see what Joe can throw. Here it comes. Here's his wind up.
This is definitely a pitcher's count because John's on his back heels here. What teams do you see? What VBL teams do you see putting more pitchers on your list than others?
Okay.
For the all-decade team.
Are you thinking first and second team, or just first?
Yeah, generally. Just off the top of your head, or even just at a glance, what team name do you see coming at you more often?
Well, there are a number of these teams that have more than one. Like Newmarket they've sort of been well known for developing relief pitchers.
All right.
So they've got Zipko on as on the first team, and then they have Trevin Eubanks on the second team. Purcellville has 2. Charlottesville has 2. Front Royal has 2. I don't know that I see a necessary correlation. Just
Okay.
all depends. Like you would think that maybe Waynesboro would have more because their park is bigger and it's it would suppress the hitting environment a little bit there. Or Charlottesville does, Woodstock does, and I think that does play a role in it. But I don't know. I've only done these 2 teams, and I need to do a comprehensive study over the last 15 years.
Well, if there's anybody that we will ever have do a comprehensive study, it's Uber fan John Leonard, who is one. Again, let me remind everybody of your official title. It's the Valley Baseball League Director of Media Relations.
Did I get that right? SMRD, the Sports Media Relations Director.
Sports Media Relations, yeah.
I've been blogging about the league since 2006.
Yeah, amazing. All volunteer, all because you love it. Great stuff, and we certainly love having you be a part of it. So I didn't hear Winchester. I didn't hear Harrisonburg. I didn't hear, let's see, I didn't hear Covington. Are we going to hear more about them when we start talking about the position players?
Harrisonburg did have a relief pitcher on the second team.
Okay.
Covington did not place a player on the first or second team.
And a pitcher or a player?
A player at all.
Wow.
And that's not to say they haven't had good players. I worked long and hard on first base, and their J.D. Mundy, who played there just a few years ago, was fantastic, was superb, and just missed, really, being included. First base was probably the most hotly contested position.
All right.
They had Bennett Hostetter at shortstop a couple years ago, same team with Mundy, and Hostetter was also fantastic. It's just these spots were limited, and it was hard to make some choices there.
Yeah, but
there are no lumberjacks.
Yeah. Hey, Joe, let me jump in real quick since we're kind of off pitchers. I was kind of surprised, and maybe this is a good place to wrap up the pitcher story and transition or segue into the batter story. But I was kind of surprised to discover that the Valley League tends to produce more pitchers than other players. Is there a reason for that?
I've been thinking about that for a long time, because you're right. When you look over the pro players that come out of the Valley League, it's many more pitchers than hitters. I don't have total numbers, but it's pretty stark. And I just wonder if it's because, for every minor league team, there are going to be 15 pitchers. Major league teams work through so many pitchers every year, but most of these major league teams have one second baseman or one shortstop. So those guys have to be at the very, very top. They have to be the best.
Right.
And it's possible as a pitcher, if you have good stuff, it's possible that you can just carry along doing what you do, and then someday you get a chance because the major league team needs.
Yeah, the pipeline for pitchers is so much wider than it is for position players. Yeah. All right, John. Well, thank you for your dedication to the Valley Baseball League and digging into all these stats, for sharing your insight with us. We're going to talk. We'll get into catchers next conversation, and then we'll go to first baseman. How about that?
Sounds great.
All right. Well, we are looking forward to that. Graham, anything else?
Yeah. Well, given that as we know, Joe was a left-handed catcher.
I was not.
So didn't you say you played?
I couldn't be a catcher because I'm left-handed.
Oh, I thought you. Well,
we'll go back and listen to the interview with Dan Jaffe, who is a catching instructor at Georgia Tech. I said, I think the catchers are the coolest guys in the field, but I could never be one because I'm left-handed, and they don't make catcher gloves for lefties. He's like, oh no, they do. They have them here, but I've never seen one. So I played first base.
Well, only thing I was going to suggest here is that if we're going to start with catchers, we should start with left-handed catchers first.
You will never find a left-handed catcher. You'll never find a catcher that throws
in the Valley. I don't remember any in the Valley.
I've never seen a professional catcher who throws left-handed. They sometimes switch hit or hit lefty, or they might be naturally left-handed, but they throw right-handed.
Yeah, but we all know one of them. His name is Joe Harmon.
I never caught.
He's right here. Well, you had your chance. You had your chance. You were just one Dan Jaffe away from success. All right, gentlemen. Before we wrap it up, though, seriously, any final thoughts on pitching? Anything we didn't cover, John, that we should mention before we wrap up the All-Decade Team Pitching podcast?
I don't know if there's anything besides just when you go to a Valley League game, you really don't know who out there is going to get that chance down the road. I'm thinking of Emilio Pagan, who was in Harrisonburg. I can't remember the exact year, maybe 2013. And he was just a skinny, like he was 5'8", 125 pounds, soaking wet, something like that. And did not have a very good summer. And next thing we know, it's 7-8 years later, and he's closing games for the Tampa Bay Rays, throwing 97 miles an hour because he grew up. He became a man. He grew into his body. Like, you just don't know when you go to these games who it is that's going to end up maybe that you'll be watching on TV down the road.
Yeah, great point. All right, thanks again, John.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
We'll be in touch.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for us for tonight. Want to thank our sidekicks, the guy on the frame right side, Joe Harmon, for his commitment to the Valley Baseball League, and want to thank John Leonard for everything he's done. 2006, he's been tracking this stuff. Anyway, tomorrow night when we come back at you, we'll be talking the All-Decade Team hitters. I look forward to that. As always, wishing each and every one of you a perfect health and a speedy return to the baseball diamond on behalf of the Valley Baseball League and the teams in this league. We'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks again for watching.